You're listening to Coffee and Sports from Wire to Wire Sports Network on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel.
Good morning and welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show powered by Wire to Wire Network. Thank you so much for making us part of your morning routine. I am Chris, and of course, that over there, that is Mo. Mo, happy Thanksgiving Eve, sir.
Happy Thanksgiving Eve to you, partner, and everybody out there that's joining us this morning.
Mo, before we start breaking down games, before we start making our NFL picks for the week, let's talk a little WWE. We teased it yesterday, so we are going to kick off the show with it this morning. The wise man has returned, Mo. The wise man has returned, and he has brought with him CM Punk to be the partner of the original Bloodline heading into Survivor Series War Games. Obviously, things kind of line up here with some previous seeds that WWE has planted. You might recall before Paul Heyman was written off TV for those handful of weeks, it was CM Punk that he reached out to and basically begged and pleaded to get him out of the situation that he was in with Solo. CM Punk is a Paul Heyman guy. Storyline and real life have already stated that. And now he is coming to the aid of Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Also, let's not forget, Mo, that it was way back when, many years ago, that CM Punk actually hired Roman Reigns and the Shield with the help of Paul Heyman to defeat Ryback and do some other underhanded things when CM Punk was a heel champion. So, Mo, once again, WWE is kind of going into their bag of tricks here as far as taking things that are already well established storyline wise and kind of calling back to them. And let's not forget what is the feud that we're kind of waiting to get to with CM Punk. Well, it's the Seth Rollins feud. And who was the other guy that we thought might be in this spot? Well, it was kind of Seth Rollins. And this is all, I think, also going to feed into the CM Punk Seth Rollins feud because Seth said that he would never be the guy in this spot to help out Roman Reigns. And now the guy that he absolutely hates is the one in this spot to help out Roman Reigns. So it's all going to come together. And like we said, Mo, like we didn't say it, like Paul Heyman said a year and a half ago, far from over. And this storyline continues to prove that.
It does. And I think that the CM Punk, Seth Rollins, their issues and where that's coming to a head, that just gives you some more branches to this story. I already feel like we're set up that Seth Rollins is going to interfere and get involved some kind of way. And I don't think he's the only one that'll be involved. So, yeah, I just think this storyline, they've just added more to it, and it's given Triple H and creative more options. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, let's talk a little NBA. The Suns, you got to give the Suns credit. The three power group that is the Suns, they've been playing well, Mo. They get the Lakers their first loss in cup play last night. What are you seeing from the Suns early on this season?
Look, when they've got Kevin Durant, they've looked like one of the top tier teams in the West by far. Durant just came back. They had struggled without him, but with Durant, with the way he's playing, and look, I give credit where credit is due. I think Bradley Beal has embraced the role as the third option this season. But really, it comes down to the fact that they have the real point guard now. Tyus Jones is a terrific point guard. He puts everybody in their sets, gets everybody in their spots, and he stays in his lane. He knows his role. Phoenix is actually even a better defensive team than the Lakers. They're a very explosive offense, but I think they're a lot more competitive defensively than they were last year. So look, when they're whole, do I think Phoenix is? I still give them a puncher's chance on making a deep run. I still don't think that they're at the top of the West. I think the team that's at the top of the West, it's still Oklahoma City. The only questions I have about Oklahoma City is once you get to the playoffs, can they handle the role of being the favorites? I have no doubts of what they're going to do with the regular season. But yeah, Phoenix is interesting. And look, the way they're built, they expose the Lakers' greatest weaknesses, and that's that the Lakers have no really good perimeter defenders, so they can attack all their wing defenders because the Lakers don't have any good wing defenders.
Well, the Bucks have won 5 in a row. We sat here and said they're old, they're slow, and they're older, and they're slower. Has anything about this 5-game winning streak helped change your mind about them being old and slow?
No, I still think they're old and slow, and I think they feasted for the most part on bad teams. I don't think they're better. I think. Do I think the Suns will? Are correct? The Bucks make the postseason, yes, but we're talking about in the bigger picture. Are the Milwaukee Bucks, this current roster as it's constructed, title contenders? No, they're not. They just aren't. They're old and slow, and that'll bear out when they play against better teams. That hasn't changed. What's been most impressive in this run, we forget sometimes just how dominant a player Giannis can be at times, but he's shown it during this run. But I don't view the Bucks as legitimate title contenders.
Injury update on Paul George. He is hoping to return within the week to the 76ers with a lot of drama right now in Philadelphia. Embiid is right in the middle of it. Charles Barkley and the crew commented on the Joel Embiid drama and basically said that Embiid needs to step up and be a better leader. But, Mo, they did agree kind of across the board with Embiid as far as the leak situation goes and how, this stuff shouldn't necessarily be leaked. This stuff shouldn't be funneling out to the media. There's certain stuff that just needs to be handled in-house, and doesn't matter what sport it is, doesn't matter what team it is. And they agreed that there is stuff that should be handled in-house, and you shouldn't have people in the locker room or from the locker room giving this stuff to the press. Mo, are we going to eventually kind of patch this up once everyone gets healthy and is on the floor at the same time in Philadelphia, which, by the way, hasn't happened? Philadelphia has a big three, and they haven't played together. So Philadelphia has really been trying to patch things together while missing 1, 2, or all 3 of their components at various times this season. So you would have to assume that once this team actually plays comprised of the player it's supposed to play with, they're going to be a good team. But man, the journey to get there has been bumpy to say the least the first few weeks of the NBA season.
It's been bumpy, and when you start off digging this deep a hole, even when they get all their guys back in their hole, you've got to develop some kind of chemistry that's never been done, right, between the 3 players, and then you've got to dig out of that hole. Like, even a best case scenario, what are the Sixers going to be if they go on a run? Maybe the 7th seed or the 6th seed. I don't know. This is a franchise that initially you thought, or a lot of people thought, bringing in Paul George made them title contenders again. I don't think they're title contenders. And I think it's primarily because even though I'm a fan of Joel Embiid, the talent and what he can do, I'm not necessarily a fan of Joel Embiid, the player, because I think that he has talent, but I've always thought that Joel Embiid lacked that thing that's in your chest. I don't view him as a leader, and I don't view him as a guy that's a dog. I don't. I think he's the kind of guy that can fall out of bed and get 28 points and 13, 14 rebounds. And yet, more times than not, I feel like he's got more quit in him than anything else. If me personally with the Sixers, I said it a year ago, and I stand on it, I would move off this guy. You're not going to win a title if Joel Embiid is your best player. You're not. I'm not going to confuse his talent versus what he actually brings to the table when it matters. I would move off of Joel Embiid. The best thing that's happened to the Sixers this season, which has been a bad season, is they found a gem in a young player named McCain. That's been a big deal. They found another dog that they compare with Maxey. Matter of fact, I actually feel going forward, if Daryl Morey was the kind of GM that knew how to build a team from the ground up, I feel more confident than moving off of Embiid because I can build around Maxey. I can build around Maxey and McCain and going forward. I think the Sixers in the bigger picture, it's just a big disappointment. The Joel Embiid era is going to be a big disappointment. He will come back. They will get together. They will get whole, and they will do just enough to disappoint Sixers fans in the postseason.
And Mo, to your point, they're currently 3-13. So they have they're 10 games under 500. So that's the hole they would have to dig themselves out of. Now, the good news is they play in the Eastern Conference where there's currently only 5 teams 500 or above.
Right.
So they may not even have to get back to 500 for being realistic. They wouldn't even have to get back to 500 most likely to make it into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. And they're going to be a competitive and a good team once they kind of get whole and they get all their pieces together. But you are kind of in that territory of how many more games can they lose and still bounce back from to get a good seed heading into the playoffs. Because even when they come back, they're not going to win 15 in a row. You know, they're not just going to erase everything, the entire hole they've dug in 2 or 3 weeks. It's going to be a process to build up. They're going to lose games here and there along the way. So it's going to take a minute to kind of get back to where they need to be. So we'll see. But we're going to bring the NFL genius in right now. We're going to talk to him about the 76ers. We're going to quickly touch on one Juan Soto and the fact that the Dodgers seem to just be able to print and sign any goddamn player they want over there. I don't know how they do it over there. Blake Snell's barely been a free agent, and he's already a Dodger. No idea what's happening over there in L.A., but let's get the NFL genius himself, Gene from Wire to Wire Sports. He is coming on this morning. And, Gene, let's start with the Philadelphia 76ers. They're 3-13, locker room turmoil. Joel Embiid is more focused on the fact that it leaked as opposed to what's actually going on and what's actually being said. And then behind all of that, Gene, you know, I think 76ers fans are right. When the team gets together, they're going to be a talented, competitive team, but they're 10 games under 500 right now, and they're still not going to be together for a minute. So they're going to lose more games in the meantime while they're getting healthy. Is it going to be too big of a hole to dig themselves out of once they do get everyone healthy?
Mark my words, and I mean this, and me and Mo disagree here, and that's fine. Mark my words, that 76ers team is going to go on a hell of a run. I'm talking about a 17 out of 20 run. I'm talking about a 24 out of 30 run. They are going to go on a run when that team gets healthy. And I'll say this, and I don't care what anybody thinks. Mo is absolutely correct about Joel Embiid not having heart. That's not where I draw that line. But Joel Embiid's going to play basketball this year, and he's super talented. And what I will look at is I look at the rest of the 76ers roster, and I think it's the best roster in the NBA. Yeah, I said it. I don't even like the Sixers that much. I think they're the best roster, top to bottom, in the NBA. I think they have the best rookie in this class with the way McCain's been playing. I think that Tyrese Maxey is an absolute stud. Paul George obviously knows, his way around a basketball court. Caleb Martin, Yabusele coming over from the Olympics, Francis Starr, Drummond is a backup center, and then you have Joel Embiid. I think that their team is absolutely loaded with talent, and I think that him getting called out and being able to have to face the music will actually be a good thing for him. Now, where I do agree with Mo is they will find a way to disappoint me in the playoffs. I know that's coming. I understand that. But that team is going to win a lot of regular season games. I said 10 straight, and then Embiid and Paul George got hurt. They're both supposed to be coming back, not this game, but next game. Their schedule sucks. It's so easy for the next 15, 20 games. It's Houston, Detroit, Charlotte, Orlando, Chicago, Charlotte, Cleveland, San Antonio. Like, out of those games, they're all winnable. I think the 76ers get back quick.
Gene, the Los Angeles Dodgers continue to just spend money like the Yankees. I have to admit it. They're spending money like the Yankees in the 90s did. Yeah. Blake Snell has been a free agent for all of, it's been a couple of weeks, but it feels like 3 days. And yesterday there was a bunch of rumors about like 6 teams that were connected to Snell. He signs his contract with the Dodgers. I think it was 5 years, $182 million. It's like the 6th or 7th $100+ million contract the Dodgers have given out in the last 2 years, including, the massive one they give to Shohei Ohtani. And you would think that this might put a damper on the Dodgers going after Juan Soto, but apparently it hasn't, Gene. Apparently the Dodgers are still very much in the Juan Soto mix. What are we doing over there with the Dodgers? Is this just a situation where they're looking at it and they are just going to give money to whoever they can, and they're just going to ride this thing till the wheels fall off? Is it just lip service? Are they really going to offer a $600 million contract to Juan Soto?
I don't think they sign Juan Soto. I think that's a little bit of a, let's see what we can get him for. Let's see if we can convince him to play here for a little bit less. But I will say this, the amount of money that they're making off of Japan is insane.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that. The Dodgers are making money hand over fist because they have the whole country of Japan tuning into their baseball games. The amount of media, the amount of coverage, Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, I'm telling you right now, that team being in LA, being as close as it is to Japan, and having two of their biggest superstars play there, they're bringing in money hand over fist. So I don't think that the spending spree stops anytime soon. But as far as Juan Soto goes, I think the Yankees and the Mets are your two favorites. I think the Blue Jays are a little bit of a dark horse because I think they're going to go spend and basically give them an open check. And I think there's one more team that will be involved in this, but I think it's really a 2.5 horse race.
Let's jump to the NFL, gentlemen. The Washington Commanders have been in the spotlight the last handful of weeks for all the wrong reasons. They're on a 3-game slide. I'm not going to say Jaden Daniels has played bad because I don't think he has over the last 3 weeks. He's had moments where he hasn't played great. I mean, he did have a terrible game mixed in there as well. But with their 3-game slide, with more attention being paid to Jaden Daniels, of course, this is the right time for Micah Parsons to come out and offer his opinion on Jaden Daniels. And his opinion is that Jaden Daniels can be unstoppable. He says that he sees something in that quarterback that could make him the best quarterback in the NFL. Gene, we love a good Micah Parsons hot take. What do you see specifically in Jaden Daniels, and what have you seen in him throughout this season?
The league adjusted, right? The league did not know what they were seeing with him in the beginning of the season, and they adjusted. And you've seen it with Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh wrote the playbook on how to control Jaden Daniels. You've seen it with Chicago. Even give Matt Eberflus credit for that. They did a good job of containing Jaden Daniels. And all Philadelphia and Dallas did was follow that blueprint. It's just, that's it, right? And even we talk about the 3-game losing streak, we don't remember the fact that he played terrible in that Chicago game also. I was at the game when they played Philadelphia, and he is not anticipatory enough on the comeback routes and the out routes that he needs to be. And if you play contain and you spy him and don't allow him to be elusive with his legs, his arm is not beating teams right now. Do I think it can happen? Absolutely. I watched Jaden Daniels play for LSU. He has a beautiful deep ball. He can, if he understands the offense, he's going to be a great quarterback. But we've seen this with the beginning of Kyler Murray under Cliff Kingsbury's system. You know, Cliff Kingsbury very, very often fails to adjust. And, you know, we've seen it where Kyler Murray, remember we put the stats up where Kyler Murray, the first 10 games of the year, he was great. And then the last 10 games or last 6 games of the year, he was not. And his record in both, it was a Kyler Murray stat, but no, it wasn't. It was an offensive game planning stat. It was a Cliff Kingsbury stat. And now you're seeing it again with Jaden Daniels, and we're all surprised. I think that, you know, you got to remember the line, never get too high, never get too low. First 8 weeks of the season, we were saying Jaden Daniels is the number one quarterback we would want to build a franchise around in all of sports. And now it's like, oh, the guy sucks. No, neither of those things are true. He's a good quarterback. He's probably the 5th or 6th best quarterback in the NFC right now, which is good. But let's not anoint him the best quarterback in the NFC 8 weeks into his career.
Gene, Mike Vrabel told a wild Urban Meyer story, which, by the way, I'm sure everyone that's connected to Urban has a wild Urban Meyer story. But Mike Vrabel shared a story of how he had an interaction with Urban Meyer, where Urban Meyer asked him straight to his face, "How do I know you?" And Mike Vrabel, not missing a beat, said, "Well, I'm the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and I worked for you for 2 years." Urban Meyer had no recollection, Gene, of who Mike Vrabel was. Wild.
Do you know, and I feel like everyone knows this person, right? Do you know the ultra religious person that you find out he's not a good person? Like he's over the top, like God, thank you, like, but like you find out like his life, he's just not a good human being, and he uses that as a way to feel better about who he is. That's who Urban Meyer is. He's a terrible person. He's always been a terrible person. He bent the rules at Florida. He literally did everything he could. Died criminal cases against multiple players on his team, including Aaron Hernandez, which probably could have saved people's lives. He bent the rules at Ohio State, did everything he could to cheat the system, cheat the game, and be able to get Ohio State where they need to be at. And then he went to the NFL where you have an ultimate microscope on you, and a lot of his dirty secrets just got out. Urban Meyer is a bad person. He's been a bad person. And he uses his faith as a crutch to make people feel like he's not a bad person. It's just very simple. He's not a good person.
Gentlemen, let's get into making our picks for the NFL week. Mo, we are going to start with our slate of games on Thanksgiving. The early game is the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. Statistically, and with the eyeball test, Caleb Williams has been playing better football. I know they're not getting the result that they want over there in Chicago. But if you kind of break down what he is doing and his success rate on plays the last 3 or 4 games compared to the first part of the season, there is growth there. That being said, the Chicago Bears are still a 4-7 team. They're not going to be a playoff team, which everyone thought they might be after that 4-2 start. And they're visiting the 10-1 Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving, Mo, which is probably going to give them their 8th loss. Which is probably going to wrap up any playoff hopes that they have. That being said, though, Mo, you also, we talked about this with the Minnesota Vikings. We talked about this with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Lions are going to have a hiccup, right? They're bound to hiccup at some point between now and the rest of the season. We don't think they're going to go 16-1 to end the season into the playoffs, Mo. Is the hiccup going to come here on Thanksgiving against the Chicago Bears?
I don't think so. I think the Lions dominate this game. I think that it's more like a business, very workmanlike performance. But I think the Lions are going to come in prepared, and because they're trying to rack up wins, they want the number 1 seed in the NFC. So I don't think they're going to take their eye off the ball versus the Bears.
And Gene, let's not forget, look at their division. They got the Eagles are right there, not in the division, but the Eagles are right there as the best team in the NFC. And then right in their own division, right behind them is Minnesota. There is no real room for error if you're the Lions as far as number 1 seed goes, because you got the Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings breathing down your neck, and the Packers aren't that far behind.
So I don't think there's a hiccup here. And I think that you've seen the hiccup from the Lions. I think their hiccup is they play a closer game than it should be. Their hiccup was playing at Houston where Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions and they still found a way to
won that freaking game.
Yeah, but you know what? Why they're such a good team is they're balanced everywhere. There's not a bad spot of the Detroit Lions. And when they get in a really tough spot, they can always rely on that offensive line to be able to run the football and be able to get positive yards if they need to rest their defense. I think the only, chink in the armor would be their cornerbacks. And I think that the Chicago Bears aren't going to exploit that this week. I think you're going to need a team that is really going to be able to be pass heavy and be able to score at an alarming rate to be able to beat the Detroit Lions. That's not Chicago.
Gene, off after the unstoppable Jaden Daniels comments, Micah Parsons also said that Dallas Cowboys are not done. The Dallas Cowboys are currently 4-7, which by my math, they haven't had their 8th loss yet. So if they go on a run here and win 6 games in a row, they could potentially jump into a wild card spot. They got the Giants, the Bengals, the Panthers, the Buccaneers, the Eagles, and the Commanders. I'm on board until we get to the Eagles game. There's no way this team's beating the Eagles with their backup quarterback. But okay, like they got the Giants this week. If you're the Cowboys and you're gonna take it 1 week at a time, okay, this is a winnable game. Gene, I can see the Giants get into 5-7. Do you see the prophecy that is Micah Parsons? We're not done yet. Do you see it rolling through and holding true this week?
I sure hope so. I want the Cowboys to win a bunch of games. I really do. I want them to finish 7-10 or 8-9 and barely miss the playoffs, because the best spot for the Dallas Cowboys to be picking is 16, 17. I'm looking at draft capital. They don't threaten me or bother me one bit come playoff time. So yeah, win those games. I don't want you getting Travis Hunter. I don't want you getting Shedeur Sanders. I don't want you getting Ashton Genty. I don't want any of those top tier players going to Dallas, because they do have a good roster. And a new coach is going to come in and make that team look relevant again next year. You're forgetting this team won 13 football games last year. They're not a bad team. Okay, good. Win some football games. Cooper Rush some games in there. Create some more quarterback controversy with a guy you just signed $240 million to. I'm good. I want that. I think they'll win a few games. I think this week is, by the way, for years, we've watched the Detroit Lions get the shit kicked out of them on Thanksgiving. I am looking forward for them to get their get back this week. And for years, we waited until 4:00 for a good football game for the Dallas Cowboys to play the Packers, or the Dallas Cowboys to play the Vikings, and a good football game on Thanksgiving. You know what you have this week at Thanksgiving? You could sit down comfy at your Thanksgiving table and eat your dinner and not worry about football, because Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito is not something I'm tuning in for or care about.
Mo, who you got, the Giants or the Cowboys?
I'm going with the Cowboys. I look, it's more than a winnable game. They should win the game, which is probably why they'll lose the game, right?
Mo, the best game for Thanksgiving is going to be the evening game. It is the Miami Dolphins heading out to Lambeau. And everything is here, gentlemen. It's the narrative. Dolphins can't beat good teams. It's the narrative that Tua and the Dolphins can't play in cold weather. It's the narrative that Mike McDaniel's offense doesn't work against good defenses, and the Packers have a above average defense. So all of that is kind of coming to a head Thursday night in Lambeau. Tua's not hiding from it. Tua said, I love changing narratives. I love proving people wrong. He hasn't done it yet. So I like that he's saying it. He needs to go and do it. Mo, if the Dolphins win this game, it's their fourth win in a row. They get back to 500 at 6-6. And as you look at the rest of their schedule, it's not as daunting as one thought it was going to be 3 months ago. They got the Jets twice. We don't know how hurt Aaron Rodgers is, or if Aaron Rodgers even finishes the starting quarterback, or finishes the season as a starting quarterback for the Jets. They got a Houston team that doesn't look nearly as dominant as we thought they were going to be this season. And they got a San Francisco 49ers team that doesn't look nearly as dominant as we thought they were going to be. And they got the Cleveland Browns. So really, in all honesty, this is the hardest game left on their schedule. Obviously, no disrespect to Houston or the Niners. They're still good teams. They're still going to be hard to beat. But as far as the powerhouses go, they're not that right now. So they win this game. They're 6-6, and they got a bunch of winnable games left on their schedule. But Mo, the question is, can they beat a playoff team? Can they do it in the cold? Can they do it on the road?
I think it starts Thanksgiving Day, right? Like if they can beat the Packers, then everything you said becomes possible. Jordan Love's probably going to be the best quarterback they have to face down the stretch. I think the Packers do have a good defense, and they're not known to play well in cold weather. So everything says, well, Miami's in trouble. We've seen this before. But you know what? The same way that it's long overdue for Detroit to get their get back on Thanksgiving, I'm going to go with the Dolphins in an upset. I think that if Tua can play a clean game, I think there's always the potential of Jordan Love turning the ball over a couple of times and giving your defense some opportunities. So I'm going with Miami.
Green Bay's a little bit more hurt than they would like to let you know. Jair Alexander has an injury that I don't know if he can recover from this year. And if you're having secondary issues and you're playing the Miami Dolphins, you're probably in trouble. Now, the one thing that's on Green Bay's side this week is it's going to snow during this football game.
Yes,
it's going to be terrible weather for this football game. And I think, if I'm just being honest, I think that the speed of the Miami Dolphins is a little bit slowed down in that type of weather. Josh Jacobs is somebody I'd rather have running than Devon Achane in that situation. With that being said, I think Miami finds a way to win the football game. I think Green Bay is riding that emotional high of finally beating San Fran and getting that, that dog off their back. And I it's really quick week. And when you have a quick week in that situation for Green Bay, I don't like it. I don't like it for them. No Jair Alexander. I think Mike McDaniel schemes a few ways to get Waddle and Hill open in space. And I think it's a very back and forth football game. It's definitely the best football game of the day. I'll go with the Dolphins.
Gene, the Black Friday game is the Las Vegas Raiders going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Hey, the Panthers game was close, Gene. Are we going to get another close game here?
I mean, probably. It's a division rival. The Chiefs haven't played good football. It's not December yet. So I don't know. We'll find out. It's not a game I know I'm not getting this version of the Chiefs come playoffs, and I know the Raiders aren't a playoff team. It's not a game I'm excited about. It is a division rival game. I do think Antonio Pierce will get the best out of his team, but now Gardner Minshew's out. Who are they starting this week? I don't even know.
Aiden O'Connell's back, baby.
Okay, we'll see. I will say this: Brock Bowers is incredible. Love watching him play football. Las Vegas can run a lot of 2 tight end sets now with Michael Mayer back. The tight end. I just don't think they have the run game or the offensive line to really be able to compete with Spagnuolo's defense. And what Spags does is he takes you out of your run game almost immediately. He just stacks the box. I don't think this is a good game for Las Vegas. I think the Chiefs bounce back and win this one.
Mo, you got the Chiefs?
I got the Chiefs as well. Like I just think Kansas City, it might not look pretty, but they just find a way to win games. And this might be kind of one of those ugly division games, but I think the Chiefs are going to win.
Well, we got the Cardinals heading to the Vikings. Could have been a different situation had the Cardinals taken care of business last week. But coming off of an actual putrid performance by Kyler Murray and company, now they go into a red-hot Minnesota Vikings team. Mo, are the Cardinals going to bounce back this week, or are we going to see Minnesota roll?
This is a big game for the Cardinals. But my gut instinct is I think I'm looking at Brian Flores' defense. I think he's going to come at Kyler and confuse Kyler a little bit. I'm going to trust that defense and the offense to do just enough. I'm going with the Vikings.
You said exactly where my head's at. Brian Flores is just someone I trust. In Flores, we trust that defense, the way he's played that cut. He's playing a cover 6 and a cover 10. It's absolutely disgusting what he does to confuse these quarterbacks. Man, I wish I could put it on, like, if I was good enough at being one of those graph guys, I wish I could put it on graphs on what he's doing defensively, because it's confusing.
Gene, the Chargers are going to try to bounce back against the Atlanta Falcons, which might be one of the most up and down teams in all of the NFL. The game is in Atlanta. Both teams need this. If the Chargers lose this, that's back-to-back losses, and you got the Dolphins trying to come back in the wild card race. The Falcons need to win their division. Some predicted them to walk away with their division, and they're one loss away from being at 500, and the Bucs are nipping on their heels. What do you got here?
This is a really bad thing for the schedule makers did to the Chargers. So the Chargers played Monday Night Football across the country while the Atlanta Falcons were on a bye.
Yep.
And you were literally giving this is the Falcons win. It's a built-in loss. I remember the Doc Rivers line. It's a built-in loss. I hate to say that, but I don't see any reason, any way Atlanta loses this football game. Short week for the Chargers. They got to travel cross country after an emotional loss. The Falcons stayed at home. We're on bye. They need the I like the Falcons in this one.
Mo?
I just think the Falcons have been really underwhelming the last couple of weeks, and the offense that we thought was going to be really explosive has been kind of average at best. I actually think the Chargers come in there and they make it an ugly physical game, and I think the Chargers beat them. I thought Atlanta could run away with this division. I think they're actually descending. They're going to allow the Bucs, maybe even the Saints, to walk them down. So I'm going to go with the Chargers in a low-scoring game.
You can take the Saints right out of your vocabulary. The Bucs, I'll listen to you. The Saints, 0 chance.
The 5-7 Colts are heading to the 3-9 Patriots. The Colts have an outside chance at the wild card if they can get their act together, Mo. The Patriots are not a great team, but they are a pretty good defensive team. Can Anthony Richardson be a good enough thrower of the football to get the Colts to 6-7 and a game away from 500?
The only thing that's holding the Colts back from being a playoff team is their quarterback play. It's their quarterback play. And they're much more talented on both sides of the football than the Patriots. And yet, I'm going to pick the Patriots to win because I just don't believe in Anthony Richardson.
Gene, can he be fixed? Or can an offense be designed to accentuate what he does to play winning football in the NFL?
I don't know. I don't know. And it's one of those ones where I would love to tell you I do know. I've told you since draft night he was a project.
Yes.
I don't think he's an NFL quarterback right now. Can he be fixed? He has more tools and more like absolute arm strength and speed and power than anybody. Like that's incredible. But to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know if he's got the wherewithal. I don't know if he's got the will or the drive to be an elite quarterback. But what I will say this, I have way more confidence. This is one of those games where I predict that the defense will amount to more points than the offense, which is embarrassing to say this late in the season.
Do you own Patriots?
I'm going under.
Got it.
I don't know. It'll be a fun game to watch.
I like that better.
I think, and remember Drake May? Drake May is the best quarterback in this class 2 weeks ago. Yeah, he plays against the Dolphins and he looks awful.
Yeah.
Granted, Dolphins played great defense, but he looked terrible.
The New York Jets are hosting the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks are trying to win their division. Who the hell knows what the New York Jets are trying to do? Is Aaron hurt? We don't know. If you believe Aaron Rodgers' camp, he is actively Mission Impossible style avoiding any sort of medical tests that would, tell the world how hurt he is. He's strapping it up and pulling the bootstraps tight, Gene, and he's being a warrior and he's battling through all these injuries. Because if those tests came out, Gene, he wouldn't be able to play, but he's got to play for what is happening with the Jets right now?
This is my fun part to be able to say I was completely wrong about the New York Jets. Just want to be very clear when I say that. I'm right about a lot of stuff in the NFL. The Jets have made me a fool this year. And it's an absolute embarrassment. The fact that they got rid of Robert Saleh and then Joe Douglas, what the real problem is, the wolf is in the hen house already. And Aaron Rodgers is just such a problem. I'll take Seattle because I think Mike McDonald has Seattle playing really good football.
Mo?
I'm going with Seattle as well. Geno looks like he's got his game back. The defense has been more solid. They've mixed in the run game. Geno's much better when he can go off play action. So I'm going with the Seahawks.
You think about that real quick. This is the Geno Smith revenge game at the New York Jets.
It is, right.
And if he was playing Robert Saleh and he was playing that defense at what it was the first 6 weeks of the season, I would be picking the Jets just based off their defense alone. Their defense dropped from number 2 in the league to number 13 now. And 13 is nothing shabby, right? It's not terrible, but when you were 2 6 weeks in, I don't know.
Oh, and it's 13. But if you look at what their defense is ranked since Saleh just left, just in that handful of games, it's below 13. So it evens out at 13. Yeah. But they're not even playing middle of the road defense right now in the league. They're playing bottom third defense in the league right now. Gene, I mentioned this yesterday. I might have been being a little hyperbolic, but I'm very much a firm believer of this. The Pittsburgh Steelers are heading to the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm calling this a must-win game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. If the Steelers lose this game, they're on a 2-game losing streak going back to play Cleveland, which I think that's the Super Bowl for Cleveland. After the nonsense that Pittsburgh said about losing to Cleveland a couple of weeks ago, I think that's Cleveland's Super Bowl. Then after that, the Steelers have a brutal 3-game streak against the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. And they're going to lose games in that stretch, which means you cannot lose to the Bengals and you cannot lose to the Browns, 2 games that you should win heading into that 3-game stretch. So, Gene, I said it. They got to take care of business against the Bengals. Otherwise, you're opening the door to a whole world of trouble when you come and play Cleveland again on the eve of that brutal 3-game stretch.
This is also a Super Bowl for the Cincinnati Bengals because this will put them at 8 losses.
Yeah.
I like the Bengals in this one coming off the bye. Joe Burrow is just too good, leads the league in passing yards. Jamar Chase leads the league in receiving yards. Trey Henderson leads the league in sacks. Give me the Bengals. And we're starting to see little couple chops in Russell Wilson. I'm telling you, Justin Fields is the better quarterback for that team. But I like the Bengals in this one.
Mo?
I think it really comes down to TJ Watt and the Steelers defense. If you can't get to Joe Burrow and he can plant and throw, they're going to eat the Steelers secondary alive. So I'm going to put the pressure on Watt and company, and I'm going to go with the Steelers winning a tough defensive game.
Well, even though the Texans have been struggling, the good news is they play in the division with teams like the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that is who they are playing against this week. You and I talked about this yesterday. As much as the Texans and as much as they could stumble down the stretch, they're too far up in this division. They're not losing their division because the Colts and the Jaguars and the Titans aren't going to catch them, in my opinion. They got the Jaguars this week in Jacksonville. Any chance the Jaguars pull the upset? I mean, they still got that Trevor Lawrence guy playing over there for them.
I think there's a possibility that Jacksonville can win the game because I don't know what to make of Houston. Their defense has been okay at times. Their offense has been erratic at best. CJ Stroud, we talked about this. This isn't me saying I don't believe in CJ Stroud. This is me saying like he's in that sophomore thing where the league has adjusted. I haven't seen him really adjust to the league yet. I haven't. But to point out something that a lot of people have noticed, the Texans are horrible on first and second down. They live in third and long. So I think the OC's got to do a better job of setting CJ Stroud up for success. But Stroud has got to play better football. I think the Jaguars pull off the upset. I'm just not sold on the Texans.
Ooh, that could be that's something, Gene.
Never get too high, never get too low. The whole world wanted to anoint CJ Stroud as the second best quarterback in football going into this year. And now he's looking, ever since he little boyed Caleb Williams on Sunday Night Football, Caleb Williams actually has better stats.
Yep.
Sounds silly, but it's the truth. I still like CJ Stroud. I don't love him, just like I felt when he was drafted. I still like CJ Stroud. I don't love him. I don't know how Doug Peterson's still the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think this will be a game in which Jacksonville keeps the game super close and finds a way to lose it. They'll probably be winning the whole time, and then they'll find a way to lose it coming down the stretch.
Gene, we got the Titans who just upset the Texans, heading to the Commanders who are sliding, losing 3 games in a row. Do the Titans build some momentum here, or do the Commanders get back on track?
No, the Titans do not build momentum here. The Commanders are going to win this football game because they need to get back in the thick of things. I think this is a Commanders win. They're at home again. I think that they win the football game. I think it's ugly. I think it's dirty, but I think the Commanders end up winning the football game.
You got the Commanders, Mo?
I do. I think Jaden Daniels and company do just enough to win the football game.
Mo, the Baker train is trying to get back to 500. They can do that if they knock off the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Mo, are you back on the Baker train getting to 500?
I am back on the Baker train. I think Baker and company beat the Panthers. It might be a tougher game than expected, but the Bucs are playing good football, opposite of all the people that they've lost. So, I'm way on the Baker train. I like the Bucs.
Why do we still question Baker Mayfield? He's played a year and a half of great football.
Yep.
Can we stop this?
Yep.
A year and a half of very good football. Yeah, give me the Bucs. They're starting to get healthier too.
They are.
Mike Evans is back.
And of course, if the Bucs get to 6-6, it's putting that pressure on the Falcons and Kirk Cousins because they are right behind the Falcons at the moment. Gene, the Jekyll and Hyde team in the NFL, the Los Angeles Rams, they're trying to get back to 500 at 6-6. They played a great game before the Eagles. They played a terrible game in the second half against the Eagles. You never really know what you're going to get out of the Rams. They have the ability to be the 3rd, 4th, or 5th best team in the NFC, and then sometimes you just don't know what's happening quarter to quarter. They got the Saints this week, though. The Saints got 7 losses. They need to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. It's in New Orleans. You going Rams or Saints?
I think it's really cute you called the Rams playing a great game, winning 28-22 at New England. That's not a great game to me. I'm kidding, but like I don't think the Rams are that good of a football team. I think the Saints are worse. I'll take the Rams to win the football game because Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are going to be too much for a secondary to trade away Marshawn Lattimore. That's where I think the game is won, as I think those receivers can constantly get first downs. I have a lot more confidence in Matthew Stafford than I do with anything that's going on in New Orleans.
Do you agree with the Saints trading away Lattimore?
I mean, yeah, they needed to. They're punting on the season. That makes sense, but if you're punting on the season, it's really tough for you to convince your guys to go out there and win. It's almost what the Giants did. They punted on the season. Look how they looked last week versus the Buccaneers.
Mo, Rams are in your division. That's what the Niners are competing against here. Are they getting back to 500?
Nah, you know me, I'm almost always betting against Derek Carr, so yeah, I'm going with the Rams.
Speaking of the NFC West, the Niners do not have an easy game this week, gentlemen. Mo, they're heading up to Buffalo to play the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen and the Bills are rolling at 9-2. They just beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Any chance we see an upset here, Mo?
There's always a chance. Look, there's a chance. But if you go off of what they've done and what they've been doing, there's a setup here where it looks like Josh Allen is going to eat up that defense. He's going to carve that defense up, and when he's not carving them up, they can run the football on them. They don't stop the run either. So I don't know what to tell you. Like, the Niners' chance would have to be Purdy plays and they win a shootout. And I don't think they're going to do that either. So, yeah, Buffalo's going to win the football game.
Will it be competitive, Gene?
I think it'll be very competitive. I think that the 49ers will make – here's my whole thing, right? Can we please give a shout-out to Steve Wilkes again? Because they fired him and scapegoated him in the Super Bowl last year. And Nick Sorensen has done nothing but destroy that 49ers defense. You have the best middle linebacker in football in Fred Warner, and he's playing at such an elite level, and the rest of the team is just not. Nick Bosa looks to be back. Brock Purdy looks to be back. If both those guys are back this week, I think it's a very good football game. With that being said, I still think no one circles the wagon quite like the Buffalo Bills.
And then, Gene, the Philadelphia Eagles head to play the Baltimore Ravens in what easily is going to probably be the game of the week. Both of these teams have Super Bowl aspirations. The Eagles are easily one of the two best teams in the NFC. The Ravens, I think, are easily one of the two best teams in the AFC. What do you got here, Gene? It's in Baltimore.
Instead of predicting my team to lose, because I think they'll end up losing the game, I think the Ravens win. I want to take my 15 seconds here to talk about Brandon Graham. That's a terrible injury for a guy that the entire city loves. And having him announce that in the locker room with the Eagles reporters was heartbreaking. He was like, yeah, I'm done for the year. They all chuckled. And he's like, no, I'm seriously, I'm done for the year. And like, what happened? You're injured? They didn't even know he was injured.
Right.
And he showed his bicep. He's like, it's torn. My tricep's torn. And he got on 94 WIP and teared up and cried and was talking to the Eagles fans. And I just want to let everyone know, if you don't know how good of a human being Brandon Graham is, he is my favorite Philadelphia Eagle of all time. He's one of the best Philadelphia Eagles you will ever run into. He is such a good human being, good person. He did our shout out for our 100 show for Wire to Wire. I legitimately got emotional for that. But in the game, I think the Ravens win the football game. It's in M&T, and they play really good football at home.
Mo?
Yeah, I think everything's set up for the Ravens to win, but I'm going to go with the Eagles. I think that, yes, the Ravens have been really good against the run. It balances out because they're horrible against the pass. Maybe Saquon doesn't have a big game running the football, but I think he still makes big plays in the pass game. I think the Eagles find a way to win the football game because Jalen Hurts attacks that secondary. I'm going with the Eagles.
Gene, we had a comparison on some of the national shows yesterday with Saquon Barkley calling it Babe Ruth to the Yankees. You like that comparison?
No.
That's doing way too much.
That's what I thought, but hey,
I think
he's
that
playing great though.
Yeah, he's playing great, but calling it Babe Ruth to the Yankees is, and once again, it's one of those things where I love what Saquon Barkley is doing for Philadelphia. He's a better person than he is player, and that says a lot for an MVP candidate. Kenny Gainwell scored that touchdown in the fourth quarter, and the first person there to hug him was off the bench with Saquon Barkley. He's been the model citizen. When he had the opportunity to break his rushing record, his personal rushing record, Nick Sirianni wanted to put him in a game. He said, let the young guys eat. If you're pulling the starters, don't leave anyone in here for me to get a record. He talks about the devil getting in his ear when he was close to that number, and he said the best thing to do is always going to be team first. I think that he's an incredible player, but he's such a great human being, and it's the perfect person to represent your franchise.
Great.
Gene, what's going on tonight with Wire to Wire Sports?
I actually have the full breakdown for you. So we are doing NFL recaps, big slate of games, obviously have that. NCAA recaps, it's rivalry week in college football. Our trivia, I have to give the question tonight to Bill Cottrell. And we're going to do a quick NBA check-in, and we're going to see we're going to give our predictions on a lot of MLB breakdowns. So we got a lot to go over tonight. It's always a fun show on Thanksgiving Eve. So I'm looking forward to it.
Before we get Gene out of here, last question, gentlemen. Aside from the turkey, what is the most important part of the Thanksgiving meal? Mo, we're going to start with you, sir.
For me, it's the homemade mac and cheese. It's the homemade mac and cheese and the cornbread. Got to have that combo.
Gene?
I really hope my family's not listening right now. I don't. I wish that they made mac and cheese the right way. I don't know if you're following my drift here.
Gotcha.
I got you.
I think the best part of the meal outside of the turkey is the pie. Give me some pumpkin pie afterwards. I know it's not a side dish, but having a slither of pumpkin or pecan pie after is exactly what I'm looking forward to.
I'm here for it.
Oh, and that's valuable because there is nothing more disappointing than polishing off a meal and not having that little end note. You don't want to walk away disappointed. So take the pie, go watch the Dolphins and the Packers, and call it a night.
I cannot wait. We're having a Friendsgiving night at my friend Adrian's house. So we go see the family. We have an early dinner, and then at night I'll be watching that Packers Dolphins game at my buddy's house, and that is. So I cannot wait for that.
Gene, have a great holiday. Have a safe holiday, and we'll see you next week. All right.
Happy Thanksgiving to both of you guys. I really appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.
All right, Mo. Gene's right. As great as mac and cheese can be, there is a version of mac and cheese you just don't want any part of at the dinner table.
I've seen that version.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
All right, Mo, we are on a break until Monday. We are coming back on Monday. We got Thanksgiving, then we got the Black Friday chaos. You gonna be a part of that Black Friday chaos?
I am not. My wife is. I don't do that because those people get crazy out there.
Is she all about it? Is she get hyped?
Oh, she goes to war and she makes my daughters go with her. She brings a crew.
That's nice. We haven't been a part of it the last few years, but we are going to be a part of it a little bit. My wife has some stuff that she has eyeballed at Target as must-haves. So the battle plan for Target has been drawn, and we'll see. We'll see where we end up.
Well, good luck to both of you going out there braving that.
Mo, that is the end for our show today. Bring us to the end, sir.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire to Wire Network. Wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Wire to Wire Network, we appreciate you.
Guys, we're coming back Monday morning. We'll have a ton of NFL stuff to break down from the Thursday, Friday, and Sunday games in the NFL. There are going to be a few teams that are going to take a step closer to the playoffs, and there's going to be a few teams that the playoffs probably won't be in the conversation for come Monday. So we're going to break down all of that and more. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show powered by Wire to